Słuchasz podcastu Angielski z Konradem. Nowe odcinki każdego tygodnia. Jeśli chcesz popracować nad płynnością, nabrać odwagi do konwersacji, skorygować często popełniane błędy bądź poznać skuteczne metody nauki, ta audycja jest dla Ciebie. Remember, you're not at school, so chill out, kick back and enjoy yourself. Let's begin.
Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Angielski z Konradem. I hope you are well, ready and willing to learn. Enjoy the show. Let's begin with some vocabulary. Mitigate. Mitigate. Zmniejszyć, złagodzić. Shortcomings. Shortcomings. Niedostatek, braki. Cohesion. Cohesion. Spójność. Wane. Wane. Słabnąć. Vocabulary or grammar? That seems to be endless dilemma for both learners and teachers of English. What should I begin with? Which is more important and which one should I focus on? The approaches vary, and I would like to present my take on the whole matter. We shall discuss this conundrum in this episode. Let's begin with a recap. Vocabulary is a set of words you know. Grammar is a set of rules on how to use words to form a cohesive sentence. I used that analogy in the previous episode, but think of vocabulary as a set of blocks, which makes grammar a manual on how to put those blocks to build something meaningful. The very first thing you learn is, in fact, vocabulary. Think of how toddlers teach themselves the language without any input from a professional language teacher, only by emulating sounds they hear. The first word they learn is usually a noun like mama or dada. In my case, according to my parents, it was give. Let's imagine that parents are dog owners as well. Dogs, surprise, surprise, bark. But for a toddler, they go woof, much as a cow goes moo, or a car goes vroom. In a moment's notice, toddlers begin to connect the sounds they make with things or actions they observe and, with a little help from their parents, make a distinction between the action and the sound that an object makes. That's a pivotal moment in learning. Some words are related to things, others to actions. Learning new vocabulary is pretty straightforward. You learn the foreign equivalent of a word you already know in your mother tongue, which makes you able to make the connection between the known and the foreign. Grammar, however, requires more mental gymnastics, recognition of sentence patterns, and their repetition in constructing your own sentences. Keep in mind that at some point in your studies, the effectiveness of studying vocabulary will wane. You will discover that it becomes more difficult to use newfound words in a sentence. You will find that some words become redundant, since you know some others better suited for a particular situation. Not to worry, it's only natural. Just as you erase any unnecessary information from your computer, your brain does so as well. So, you need to know words in order to engage in any kind of communication, but you need to know grammar in order to be cohesive, and not to sound like a caveman or cavewoman. The truth is, you can't have one without the other, and your focus should depend on several factors. Number 1, your current proficiency. I lived in London for a short while. Imagine that most people I had come to know and had an opportunity to talk to used just one aspect for each tense. Some of them were natives, I might add. You don't need much grammar in order to communicate. In that case, focus on getting to know as many words as it is possible. The point here is to get you started. Get familiar with new grammar rules only when such need arises. Get the basic rules and leave any nuances out. You don't have to impress every single person with your awesome English, but to communicate successfully, so treat it as means to an end. Which brings me to number 2, your aim in regard to proficiency. Let's be honest, Most of you are not philologists, nor should you aim to speak like one. More often than not, knowing too much grammar may cause confusion. More on that in a bit. Think about the purpose of your studies and how you want to use your newfound skills and knowledge. Do you want to perform Shakespeare? Probably not. Do you want to confidently speak English abroad? Who doesn't? The point here is to tailor your learning to a particular aim. If you want to speak fluent English abroad, for example, your grammar needs are limited to basic tenses and a lot of vocabulary. That's why pocket dictionaries usually don't contain any grammar rules, but a lot of useful expressions instead. Number 3, your professional needs. Some of you learn English not because they want so, but because they need so. I have been conducting lessons for a construction engineer lately. His company began to expand and foreign customers began putting orders on their services. In order to get most out of this great opportunity, at least one employee has to be proficient in English in that particular field of expertise. Some of my learners also include bankers, with very much the same case, learning English out of necessity. In both cases, the focus lies on vocabulary specific for a particular purpose. In writing, however, it's worth knowing some correct grammar. Personally, I would be inclined to recommend focusing on vocabulary, but knowing grammar also helps. Let's take word formation, for example. In most cases, regular verbs in past tense have ed ending. So next time you see the word cold, you will know that it's coal in the past. There is one more thing, and I cannot stress this enough. Do not study grammar. There is a great difference between learning grammar and studying grammar. You can learn grammar naturally through exposure. The more you expose yourself to the language, the more proficient you become, both in vocabulary and grammar. It's easy to mitigate shortcomings in vocabulary, whereas communication jams caused by overthinking are not so easily mitigated. When studying grammar, you begin analyzing, and, in turn, you focus more on the language than on the message you want to get across, causing you to jam while speaking. You don't have to analyze each word, phrasing, structure, which tense to use, which aspect, which mood. That's a lot to take in, and you don't have that much time to begin with. Speaking is a very dynamic activity. By over-analyzing grammar rules, you make conversation as dynamic as a game of chess. Learn correct grammar through exposure instead. Listen to grammatically correct sentences, read grammatically correct texts, do it regularly, do it consistently. In time, be it your speech or your writing, it will become grammatically correct as well. Thank you for listening, and to all the ladies, Happy Women's Day. In case you had forgotten, here's the revision of vocabulary for this episode with some example sentences and their translations. After each sentence, I'm going to give you some time to try it yourself. Let's begin. Mitigate. Mitigate. Zmniejszyć, złagodzić. In order to mitigate monthly expenses, John does his laundry at his parents' house. In order to mitigate monthly expenses, John does his laundry at his parents' house. Shortcomings. Shortcomings. Niedostatek, braki. Despite minor shortcomings, Mary gave an exceptional speech. Despite minor shortcomings, Mary gave an exceptional speech. Cohesion. Cohesion. Spójność. Cohesion is a mark of successful communication. Cohesion is a mark of successful communication. Wane. Wane. Słabnąć. His enthusiasm began to wane after his 10th loss in chicken chasing championship. His enthusiasm began to wane after his 10th loss in chicken chasing championship. His enthusiasm began to wane after his 10th loss in chicken chasing championship.
And that's the conclusion of today's podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening. I'll talk to you next time.